podcast where we discuss and study a view of the effective teacher in Azerbaijani schools and the factors that contribute to the development of effective professional practice in teaching. I am Khoshgadam Khudiyeva and with me is Nazira Gambarova. Today we'll discuss effective teachers with our special guest Nazira Gambarova. She is one of the best English teachers in Azerbaijan. She will share her teaching expertise, story, and advice about effective teachers. Let us get started. Hi Nazira, and welcome to our podcast. How would you like to be introduced?
My name is Nazira Gambarova. I have been teaching English for 16 years at the secondary school number 26. In 2022 fall, I have been an exchange teacher in the United States, Georgia State, Atlanta. Besides, 2 times I won the grant project from the Ministry of Education of Azerbaijan.
How could you characterize an effective teacher? Can you bring any examples?
For being a good teacher must learn a lot. They can go to different trainings. They have to participate in different trainings. It could be online or in person. So when teachers go to participate in the training, what they learn, the teachers have to implement them in their lesson and to see is it effective or not effective. I think it's very important. The other things for me, peer observation is also very important. For example, you ask some other teacher from your school, or you can ask some other colleagues from different school, come to my classroom, please observe my lesson and give feedback. What is true thing, what is good, what is effective or ineffective in my classroom. So, we don't see ourselves, how do we behave, how we teach the students, so that our colleagues can tell that this part was very good, this part was a little bit not good, there are some lackness. So peer observation is very important for me. So if the students don't have good self-esteem, the teacher can ask them to stay at school after classes, and teacher can talk to the students, and ask how do you feel when I ask question, why you don't want to answer the question, what do you want. So I think that teacher can get some feedback from the students. It's also efficient. I sometimes ask my students to do it. So they write some letter, kind of anonyms. They don't write their names. And I try to consider their thoughts about my lesson. So the other things, the teacher can use different newspaper about education, or some other magazine. For example, for English language, there is a Forum magazine called Forum, that it's international. Teachers can read it online. I always read it. I get some new ideas, and these ideas help me and I help my students to improve their English, their thinking order. The critical thinking is very important. So I want my student to analyze everything. They can understand. They can tell, is it good or is it bad for their life. They have to express themselves. I think for being a good teacher must improve themselves first. If a teacher is well educated, if a teacher is diligent, hardworking, it influences his or her students. If a teacher is positive, the student becomes positive and they want to answer all questions. They all want to involve the task. They are encouraged because the teacher encourages them to participate in all activities.
How can a teacher be effective and efficient?
Everything is changing day by day. Technology, lifestyle, even teaching method, teaching material, education approaches, new ideas, everything is changing. So teachers must be open to new things. They have to learn new methods and implement them in their lessons. So if a teacher has good knowledge, if the teacher is hardworking and open to new things, flexible, they can use new method in the classroom. So I think effective teachers who teaches effectively, their lesson becomes effective and students get a lot of benefit from this lesson. You know that teachers themselves are a great resource. The student asks teacher from different things about the lesson, about the topic and some other things. So teachers are resources. If the teacher good motivators, it means the lesson will be effective. At the end of the lesson, the teacher should be sure that student learned a lot from his her lessons. So if the students could do exercises, could solve some problems, it means the teacher taught well, could explain well. So we know that students have to examination at the end of the year, or they have some summative test. If they have a good grades, it means the teacher taught them well. The student could understand what the teacher told them. So I think that if a teacher teaches effectively, do her best, using different method, using different materials, bring classroom different how can I say activities, it means that the lesson will be effective too, and student will get a lot of benefit from this lesson. You know that students in somehow depends on the teachers. So I try my classroom to be a student center, but they need me as a resource. So I think that effective lessons and teacher who teaches effectively, they equal each other. That is the result of teachers' work.
Do you view yourself as an effective teacher and why? What has been your most notable professional accomplishment as a teacher?
I think I am a successful teacher because I did a lot of project in my school 2 times. I won a grant project from the Minister of Education of Azerbaijan. The first time, the project was consist of 2 parts. The first part, students have to learn about, they have to discuss. They had debate about early age for the girls. So they discussed girls must not get married at a very early age. Because if a woman gets education, it means that when she's going to have a family, all her children is going to be educated, and it is very beneficial for society. And second part of the project was that they have to write a play and then act this play on the school stage. So I invited uh, writers, actors, director, photographer, makeup makers to school, and they help the students how to write the play. And after that, they help the student to prepare the performance. It was a great performance. That it was there was a conflict in one family, that father didn't want her wife to work, didn't want her daughter and son to study, and it was in English. And my second project was about working with other the students and teachers from different countries. We work with a teacher from the USA, Mexico, Thailand, then Brasilia. We work on the project global warming, how global warming happens. Then students try to find the solution of global warming. It was very great project because it's actually very global, and students need to help the earth. So my other uh, successful thing for me was I became the finalist of the T program. It was a Fulbright program, exchange program. In fall 2022, I went to United States, Georgia State. I studied at Georgia State University in Atlanta. So it was a great experience for me. It almost changed my teaching life. So coming back from the USA, I try to implement all I have learned in my school. I share all I have learned with the teachers in my school and an American center. Uh, I learned a lot of new things there. So even technology, even lesson planning, it's called the SIOP. Then I observed high school 2 weeks. It changed my mind. I understand every detail of curriculum, how to implement all standards in the classroom.
What challenges have you faced throughout your teaching experience, and how have you overcome them?
Teachers are always facing with challenging. So they're one of the challenging for me for the last 2 years. I try to use technology in my classroom, but for example, students sometimes are forbidden to bring the cell phone to the classroom. But I ask my director, and she lets the students bring a cell phone to the classroom because the students try to make some research because there are not a lot of computers in my school, so students use their cell phone for making research. So the other challenging in my classroom is also related with technology. My student made a presentation. They did it at home, so I have to show the other student the presentation, and the student have to talk about their presentation. But in my classroom, we didn't have projector and computer, so I went to our computer science teacher and I asked her, please give me 10 minutes. My student must make their presentation, but we don't have enough projector and computers, so I really need it. She's a very kind person. She said, of course you can use my room. Her room, actually she had her own lesson, but she gave us 10 minutes and my student could make their presentation. And after the presentation, we came back to our classroom, made a discussion in our classroom. It was really great challenge for me because of the technology. The other things that happened during the pandemic, during the pandemic, the student could not access the internet. All lessons were online. Students could not access. So sometimes I asked the director, "Can I use Zoom?" She said, "Yeah, you can use." I use Zoom for online lesson. And I try to help students how to use the technology, how to access the internet, how to write assignment, how to make their tests, some other things. So I don't have problem with parents and students. Mostly I have a good relationship with my students because after classes, if they have some problems, they stay after classes, they want to talk to me privately. I always listen to them because a good teacher must be a good listener to their students. For example, there are some students that they don't cannot tell their problem to their parents. Sometimes they ask advice from me and I do my best for them. Maybe that's why every year after graduation some of my students become English teachers. Maybe that's the reason. So I'm lucky.
How do you usually measure the effectiveness of the lesson?
Effective lesson it means that students get a lot of benefit from the lesson. So when they are going to write the subsummative, you know that after each unit the student have to write the small or subsummative, or at the end of the term 2 times in a year student have to write they are going to have the big summative, main summative. So if the student can answer these questions, how can I say, if there is a 10 question, the student can answer 8, 9, 10 question. It means the classes, the lesson were effective. So in English, there are 4 standards for skill that teacher have to implement the lesson: listening, speaking, reading, writing. So if teacher could implement all the skills, all the standard in the lesson, so it helped the student to improve their skills. So in sometimes in Azerbaijan, sometimes teachers prefer students to read and translate and just write. They don't prefer the students, they don't make the student to speak. And so there is some lackness speaking of the students. So the students have to produce something, they have to say, they have to write, they have to produce something. So I think that effective lessons mean that student can understand, analyze and answer. They can implement what they have learned in their real life. So effective lesson means that if student learned a lot of skills at school, even after classes, they can do some social works. They are better for their private life. For a student, they can express their ideas. Students really need to feel self-confident. They have to be self-esteem. So during the lesson, if the student work in group, in pair, I mean that if they collaborate each other, students, it means the lesson was effective.
What are the elements that help teachers build effective professional practice?
The teachers are lifelong learners. They do their best for the students. I think that teachers should work collaboratively. The staff at school should be kind of a teamwork. It's a kind of team that teachers work together. They collaborate with each other. The teachers should interact with other subjects. The lessons should be interact with other subjects. We can ask the other teachers to come to observe my lesson. It's very important, a peer observation. So there is one proverb, African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I think that if the teachers work together, if they, for example, if they are trying to implement some skills, or they want to how to implement their, for example, listening standard at the lesson, they can ask each other, they can collaborate each other. And even that experienced teacher should help the teacher who started new at school, because experienced teacher have experience, they have faced a lot of challenges, but new teachers are enthusiastic to teach. So the experienced teacher, if they give some advice, some recommendation, it can also help the teachers. So to my mind, teamwork is important. And after classes, teachers could stay at school and they discuss what is a problem of our school. How can we solve this problem? This is a digital age, and students like doing something on the cell phones. They like to playing games. They are making some videos. So we can ask the students use the social media in the classroom related to the topic. For example, we can ask the student use some presentation. They can make some video in YouTube, or they can find some interesting material and bring to school. So the students have to use their time beneficially. So I mean that if a teacher work collaboratively, they can give each other some idea how to use the technology, how to use the internet in the classroom.
We have now concluded this episode. Thank you for listening to our podcast on effective teachers. We appreciate Nazira's participation in our critical examination of effective teachers. We believe it benefited you.